This is the Iron Sharpens Iron movement, sharing insights into the power of people-centric leading.
Hi, this is Jim, and today we're in for a special treat. Welcome to our tribe, a mindset and peak performance coach, a former Navy SEAL, a business owner, an actor, and a motivational speaker, Ray Cash Care. The Iron Sharpens Iron movement is brought to you by N2 Growth, a leader in executive search, leadership development, and talent management. We find and develop the world's best leaders. Learn more about our practice by visiting us at n2growth.com or click on the link in the show notes of this podcast. All right, today we're welcoming to the tribe Ray Care. Ray is an incredible individual that I'm sure you've just were inspired by when I read the bio. He's a special operator, a SEAL by trade, and has been out in the private business world for years now and has been very successful. Ray, welcome to the Iron Sharpens Iron movement.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's an honor.
Yeah, Ray. I tell you, one of the things that I want to just get right after is not only we're both military guys, we've both been in special operations. There's some foundational things that are applied to that kind of lifestyle, but I am someone that believes in people-centric leading, people-centric following, mentoring, and coaching. And I'd be really interested to start to dig down into some of your points of view, how you've seen kind of the lay of the land in the business world out there on can you take some of the fundamental things that you've learned as a special operator and apply them into the business environment? Do you think it actually relates?
Actually, I think it relates 1,000%. I think it's the foundation of why I've been so successful. I've just taken, and we can get into this in a minute, I've taken what I've learned from the SEAL teams, and all I did is, it's just a drag and drop. I just dragged it and I dropped it over into the civilian world. And, it's the little things that I think set individuals above the rest. Like I said, just coming in with that initial interview, you only have, I've learned with interview, with resumes, you only have split seconds to not impress people, but to make an impact. So, and it's with everything I do, job interviews, everything. If I have a job interview at 4:00, I'm standing tall at 3. I actually did that recently. People are like, what are you doing here? I'm like, here's my mindset that I learned in the SEAL teams. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, this isn't for you. So I agree and with you wholeheartedly that everything that you can learn from spec ops, military type structure and organization does transfer over and will give you the tactical and technical advantage to succeed.
Awesome. I used to call it the Lombardi rule, right? Vince Lombardi, the great football coach, he had a rule that whatever time I give you, 15 minutes prior to that is the actual time I want you here.
And I actually do that. I actually have my alarm set. It's funny you said that. I don't hit the snooze button. I don't set the alarm, but what I do is we talked about this earlier. I was running a little behind because we had some technical difficulties and I was furious because I was sitting here writing the wrong person trying to get this ready. But yeah, 15 minutes at a minimum. Who's going to argue with Coach Lombardi? Not me.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. It's kind of funny. In one of my paddles that I had for retirement, they actually put it in there because I was such a huge proponent of the Lombardi rule. If anybody ever showed up, sooner than, or, later than 15 minutes, I always counted them late, And it's just something, it's a good habit to be ingrained no matter where you are. Private business, military, it doesn't matter. So Ray, we're sitting out there in our Iron Sharpens Iron tribe, a lot of professional business folks, and they're sitting there going, okay, well, I got a SEAL and a special operations guy. I'm not going to do 100 push-ups. So what do they have to say? That can really relate to how I can change the way that I operate in the C-suite. So when we get into this people-centric leading and just people-centric being, what are some of the really foundational things that you have seen from dealing with human beings that are some of the most important core foundations that you think everybody should grasp that will literally start to change their lives?
Well, I live by 4 principles. They're called the F bombs. Now, I don't know what this has to do with business, but this has to do with life. And this is what I tell people. The most important business, the most important investment that you can make is in yourself. You have to start there. So in order to do that, if you want to be successful, the first thing you have to learn how to do is be successful with yourself. Like one of my great mentors, Bedros Keuilian, told me, you want to make $1 million, you need to help 1 million people. And I was like, wow, I like that. So how do I do that? I branch it off in the four, I call them non-negotiables. These are things that you have to live by. You need nothing else. Family, fitness, finance, and faith. They're my 4 F-bombs, my foundation. Now, let's touch on each one real quick.
Sure,
so
you bet.
So I put family at the top and faith at the bottom, and people go, why the hell are you doing that? Well, let me explain. So think of it's a house. Like if you're into construction, the faith is the foundation at the bottom. If you're a nature lover, it's the roots of the tree, right? If a tree falls over and the roots are exposed and the roots are dead, the tree won't grow anymore. But you can actually knock a tree over. If the roots are still planted in the ground, that tree will still grow. So the faith isn't on a religious aspect. Now, I don't get into religion. Myself and Jason Redmond, I always say this because we go to the same church. We're both Christians. That's fine. But I don't judge people on any religious beliefs. But the faith is the ability to believe in oneself. So the reason why I put that at the bottom is I give people, I teach the conquer mindset, and I teach people how to be the master you, 7 points of performance. And the only way that that's going to start off is by doing one of the easiest drills that I actually have a video that went viral. I do it with my daughter. Every morning that a human being gets up and they're able to read and write and speak, hopefully, we'll figure out. They take a sticky note and they do this. Average American, even a child, they spend most of their time on a phone, a computer, or in the mirror. So this is what I tell. And if it's an adult, you put it in the workplace and you come up with a motto for you. So my daughter's is she gets up every morning. First thing she says, she looks in the mirror and goes, I'm a winner. I'm a champion. Okay.
Nice.
I say, be great today, be a BITCH tomorrow, because I'm going to prolong greatness. So my point is with the faith is it's just like anything else. You have to program yourself for greatness. And people go, we're not programmed. We are. So fill in the blank right here. Just fill in the blank for me real quick. Okay. I can't see you. You can't see me. What do you do? What do you do before you cross the street?
Look both ways. That's
right. Tell me, is a stove, it can be 2 things. What? Hot and what else? Cold if it's off, right? Did your parents taught you that a stove was hot? Did they put your hand on it? No. They would teach you hot. So my thing is why not just use those same fundamental skill sets, get up and program yourself? Because here's what I've learned. If you get up every day and you think you're going to do great things, you're going to do great things. If you get up and think, get up like you won the lottery. Like you said, set your alarm 15 minutes early. Jump up out of bed. Admiral McCraven's, we had him on my podcast.
Just going to mention it.
Yeah.
Yep. Make your bed.
Make your damn bed. My daughter does it right now with everything going on. Make your bed. You've already accomplished something. And then let's start off the day. So that's the faith. And here's what I'll tell you. Nobody knows, because the most precious commodity we have, sir, is time. It's not health. It's nothing else. Because this is what I know. There's 24 hours in one day. That's all I know. The average American sleeps 6 hours. That leaves about 14 hours left over. What you do in that 14 hours is up to you. Now, Jocko is a very good friend of mine. Jocko, I'm actually reading one of his books right now. He gets up at 4 o'clock. But this is what I'll say. The faith is doing what you can with what you got. If you're a single mom and you're getting up, or you own if you're a CEO of a company, some CEOs of companies work super late. They start their day off later. My point is, as soon as you get up, you have to attack the hill. Attack the hill. That's right.
I love it.
Let's go up to family. So it's family, fitness, finance, and faith. Family. Are you a great father, dad, mom, sister, whatever? Fitness. Not only how do you look, how do you feel? Are you going to the doctor? Are you taking care of yourself? Finances. What are you doing to better yourself? Like, what is it? Short, middle, and long term, right? It's investments. And this is what I tell people to do every 3 months. Every 3 months, sir, I want each individual who's listening to this podcast to take a picture of themselves and grade themselves on those 4 non-negotiables of their life. Some of the most successful people I know have like 3 A's and an F, because you have to learn how to balance out the greatness. And every 3 months, you need to take another picture of yourself and you need to grade yourself. And wherever you see, and be honest, like I actually do this every 3 months with my wife and my daughter on areas that I can focus on. Example, with everything going on right now, I've been a little short. So I've been watching my temper, watching how I get, the recession, whatever we want to call it, is here. So that's what people need to do. That is the foundation of where things need to start, is with your 4 F bombs. Again, that's family, fitness, finance, and faith. Once you attack that, the sky's the limit.
So you feel with all 4, you kind of mentioned, a lot of people will get in there and they'll have like 3 A's and a B, 3 A's and an F, whatever. You theorize, though, that on all 4, you've got to have this balance. They're all connected to each other some way, right? They're all interconnected.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the fact that, Ray, I think you bring up a good point about when you first said faith, right? When you were talking about family first, faith at the bottom, fitness and finance in the middle. When I was thinking about faith, when you first said it, I was really thinking in terms of spirituality. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, so spirituality is believing in something bigger than yourself, right? Yes. Whatever that is. Again, does not have to be religious. It's just believing in something bigger than yourself. Heck, if you're a corporate person, you could say it's the core values. Do I believe in these or not? Those kind of things. But faith, that's a great one that kind of it's an ultra focus point. It just gets to the aim point of it, of faith is faith in your damn self. Having that confidence level that you can do anything, that you can overcome these things. So would you say from that perspective of faith, I'm a big believer in victim or victor. So from a faith perspective, you want to be a victor, right? You want to be victorious in life and victorious in things for whatever you're going to handle that day.
Amen. And in order to do that, you have to be victorious with yourself. That's the thing. People try to accomplish all these great things. I know you've seen it. How many employees have you ever seen? Here, I'll give you an example. You run a business, you have an employee that you have some type of relationship with, right? Because all leaders, right? There's physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual leadership. So in order to do that, right, there's the 3 L's of being a leader. You have to lead and know when to be led. You have to listen and you have to learn. That's how I became a great leader. So you have an employee that comes in and they're off. And you know what I mean? Just maybe there's a woman, there's a guy, they just aren't off. I guarantee you can sit down with that person as a leader, or have somebody in their leadership chain of command, sit down with them and say, hey, James, I notice you're off today. Are you having a problem with your family, fitness, finance, and faith? And I guarantee you,
love it.
One of those foundational points is going to be an issue. And then, like I say, as a leader, the 3 L's of being a great leader are, like I said, you need to know when to lead and when to be led. You need to know when to listen, and you need to know when to learn. So that's when I apply because I have a few employees that work for me, and we've had this situation. We talked on the different aspects and different areas of leadership, the mental, the physical, emotional, social, spiritual leadership. But when I see somebody off, all I do is I go back to my 4 F bombs and say, hey, James, what's going on? And you would be amazed how many people will actually open up to you and just tell you that if you just listen from them. And what I do is, when I hear people that are having issues like that, I learn from it. Like, holy crap, what can I do to avoid someone else coming in? Because here's the deal. The success train is only run if all the components are working, right? Simultaneously. Right. Those pistons, they have to be running. That engine has to be clean. And if you have a bad, I'm going old school, if you have a spark plug, not fuel injected, if you have a spark that's not giving 100%, that's going to have a chain reaction to that entire system of success. And you and I know both that, in today's world, business world, it's competitive. You cannot have that. So as a leader, it's your job fix that spark plug or to figure out how to fix that spark plug. That's how it works.
So I want to dive, if you don't mind, I want to dive a little deeper into the F-bombs. We handled faith pretty well there.
Sure.
And because I want to do it from a perspective of someone that's listening to us and they're like, okay, bam, there's my aha moment. As I'm working my way through the organization, I'm walking down the hallways and I see that somebody's off, I'm going to do that F-bomb. I'm going to do the 4 Fs and kind of hit them. So I think they understand how faith is now. So let's go back up to the top for family. And you gave the great example of, like, hey, look, times are a little stressful. I realize, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, a little higher stress. So I've got to kind of watch it around the family. Do you think family's a touchy subject, though, that, some of these leaders that are in the political correct world, they're like, man, I don't want to ask a question about somebody else's family. Maybe they're going to be offended. What are some of the things, though, when you mean family, and you gave the example, but you got a couple others to throw out there a little deeper on, when you're talking about taking care of your family?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of them, So what I do from family aspect is I write down how I started off this. And I actually have a piece of paper right here. I write down that I'm a male. I'm a male. Okay. So I'm a male. I'm a father. I'm writing these down as I do this. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. I'm a son. I'm a cousin. And I can just go on. I'm a teammate. And then literally what I do is I just look at all of these different, they're just avenues. They're just contingencies of who I am. And, each, just like with finance, I break them all down. And all I do is I go through them each, like once every 3 months. And I go, okay, father. Okay. And what I do in 3 months is I keep a log of everything I do with my 4 F-bombs. I have journals that go back. And everybody, and people go, I don't have time to do that. My thing is bull crap, man. I have this thing on my phone. It's called Notes. I love it. I don't know who invented it, but but what I do is I incorporate, where you can click. So it has the little circle where you have to check it off. So I go through that every day. Yeah. So I just break it down. I break down each category into subcategories. And I mean, so like, fitness. I mean, fitness isn't big. The family is the biggest one. That's the one that most people have issues with. And like you brought up a good point. Like sometimes family can be a touchy situation. So let's do it like this, right? I'll give you a scenario how I would deal with one of my employees. You come in, you seem a little distraught, you're a little snippy. I would just go like this, obviously, because, HR can be a deal here, an issue. Hey, James, do you have a second? Yeah, come on in. I'd like to talk to you about something if it's okay. If you're not comfortable with it, I understand, but I noticed you're a little off today. And, I've learned that when people are off and they're not running on all, I say 12 cylinders, then it's usually something's going on. And it's usually in your family, fitness, finance, and faith. Now, James, I understand that some of these are pretty touchy subjects, but all I want you to know is I'm not only your boss, but I'm your friend, and I'm here if you need to talk. If not, I can help you find somebody, because a lot of times, James, sometimes if you just vent, that's okay, because what I need you to understand is even though I have an open door policy, I have another policy where as long as you're not doing anything that's, illegal or unethical,
right.
You can talk to me and we can have that type of, confidentiality. And not to get too personal with myself, James, but I guarantee I've probably been there and done that. And most people, when you approach things like that, and it just kind of, because when they come in, they're initially going to be, on the defense. Why does he want to talk to me? But I think it all depends on, I don't believe, like in the company I have, I don't believe in doing a weekly email, because this is what I'll tell you. Don't even ask me to give you business statistics, because you'll laugh if I tell you. What I do is once a week, I do a Skype or whatever it is, a webinar, and I have the other 6 employees on there with me. And I talk about what needs to go on. And then at the end, just like on my podcast, I have a 2-minute session with each person where they can let it all loose. Like there's no holes barred. Like tell me what's good. Tell me what's going on with you. Tell me what's good, and tell me what needs to be fixed. Boom. And then after that, I make them send me a report. I do this, and it really, really works. Same thing. And the thing is what people need to understand is the most important business you have is you, and that's what you need to invest in. So a lot of people, we were talking about, the report card, their finances are great. They believe in their self, their physical, their fitness is okay, but then their family life sucks because they're applying so much. I've sat at I spoke at the Empire Business Summit with Bedros Keuilian, Brett Clothier, what's his name, Tom Bilyeu, the guy that invented Quest Bar, billionaire, all these amazing people. I think besides me, Jason Redman was there. He's my best friend. And we make great money, but compared to some of these people, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, billionaires. And I sat down. It's called in a green room. Before you go on live, I had Los Hustles there, all these people. And I sit down with this gentleman who just closed a $400 million deal. And he was talking about, I started talking about my conquer mindset, and I had him grade himself. Family, great. We won't get into fitness yet. Finance, I just closed a $400 million deal. Boom. Faith. I believe in myself with business, but then he went back to fitness. He goes, I want to go to one of your courses. And he went, ready? He went, but. And I went, what the hell did you say to me? But. And I go, I always do this. I go, dun, 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 dun. And he goes, what is that? And Bedros Keuilian was sitting there. I'm like, dude, I'm a shark and there's blood in the water. My point is no matter how successful you are, everybody is bleeding from one of those 4 non-negotiables. Sometimes, but most of the time you can control the bleeding. Sometimes so much damage has been done. Case in point, the billionaire who neglects his wife, neglects his family, all the money in the world can't fix
That's right.
the hole that he's done. So what I tell people is you need to evaluate yourself and you need to control the bleeding. And people go, well, that's kind of graphic. Well, because it's a life and death situation with some things, especially if it is your family, your fitness, and your faith. Finance, I know we're talking business, but finance is actually the least of my worries in those 3 categories. And people go, oh, how do you say that? Well, I've been smart with money and, and I understand, Brad Lee's one of my good friends, and he's a gazillionaire, and he has one of the greatest outlooks I've ever heard. He goes, I always hear people that say money is the root of all evils. And he goes, this is what I'll tell you. He goes, I've been poor and I've been rich, and I like being rich a lot more than being poor. And I was like, okay, but yeah. But he did say that when he didn't have as much money, life was a lot simpler. So he said, yeah, you bet. You need to figure out, the pros and cons of being wealthy and or being rich, So, and I define wealth and success is more of helping others help themselves. I'm never going to be rich, but I'm very wealthy because I do a lot, and I feel good about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And, so we'll kind of stay on finance a bit, I agree, right? This isn't about, how you're going to balance a checkbook. It's not about how, it's not an investment show, but there are some fundamentals that every person should do from a leadership perspective. If we're talking leadership, to say, when we're addressing finance, there's some fundamentals just to make sure you've got these. A good example is in today's current crisis is you talk to any advisor and they're going to be like, have your 3 to 6 months of emergency savings, right? It's the first thing you do is have the, emergency savings plan before you start investing and doing all those things. Well, now that's coming to roost a little bit, right? There are people who literally are going to have to start dipping into these emergency funds, 3 to 6 months of their salary for these type of situations. And it leads into so much positivity if you have it, right? If it's established, you can turn to your family and have faith in it and go, we're going to be financially fit, for the next coming months while we can, get some situational awareness on what do we do next and all of that. I think that's important. But Ray, I wanna dig just a little bit deeper on the finances when you said, hey, there's a difference between wealth and rich, and, I feel wealthy. Were you kind of also hinting at like a lot of the things that you do from a charitable point of view, from philanthropy, anything like that? What's your viewpoint on when you talk about finances, about, giving something back?
Oh yeah. So, my wife Lily, if I made $100 million, I would only be a millionaire because she gave $99 million of it away. Um, but my point to that is yes. In order to get, you have to give. We're huge advocates of giving back. There are certain charities that are very near and dear to us, that aren't only, and not all of them are military oriented, but I do feel that, um, karma comes to play,
Yeah.
because, and this is the mindset I would want. There's always, I don't care who you are, going to be someone who is better off than you financially and someone who's always worse off than you financially. That no matter where you are. So my thought process, which my wife helped me develop, because I used to be greedy, not grateful, and now I'm grateful, not greedy, is let me wouldn't if I was, and I just imagine like a person that's got two kids like me and can't make ends meet and can't do this. I try to find charitable contributions where I know that you know what I'm talking about when I go here, where when you're given a certain amount, almost all that amount goes to that charitable contribution person versus the overhead and paying,
Yeah.
I don't want to dig on any certain places, but
Yep.
I would just hope, and this is the mindset that people need to understand, is always reverse engineer any situation where you were in, or put the shoe on the other foot. If you knew that you were sitting in, you were doing everything you possibly could to make ends meet, working two jobs, not getting sleep. I mean, it's been to the point where I've made sure the kids have eaten before me. You're doing everything possible, but you know that there's somebody out there that could give. Hell, I would want them to give to me, and guess what? I'm going to pay it forward, because I'm going to, maybe that little bit of charitable contribution that they give me is going to help me get ahead. But what I don't want people to do is, once they get ahead, forget, because that's what a lot of people do. And it's funny, I give according to how much I make, like kind of like the TSP. Do you remember that? The
Yeah.
more money
You
you made,
bet.
I give a certain amount of money. So if one year I make $200,000, I make sure I give a certain amount of money. Next year, if I make $300,000, I make sure I give that amount. I don't just do one amount, like, hey, here's $5,000. Let me write it off. Okay. No. And there's other ways to give, which is very important. We talked about being wealthy. We donate some of our time to soup kitchens.
Awesome.
We have, given clothes, things that we don't need, not things that we want, because there's the want and the need. If we don't, in clothes, things that are just sitting in there, we always donate them. I've actually taken clothes where I know homeless people are and just given them to them. No social media. I don't need a receipt to write it off. It's just
The right
humans
things to
helping
do.
humans.
That's right.
Yes. That's what's
Yeah.
so key.
I tell you, Ray, I've got a great story to share with you that just happened to me last night, and it humbled me. So I'm tracking with you on this, and I'm the same way. I try to do 10% of my earnings. So just exactly what you say. No matter what I earn during whatever year, 10% goes to some of the charities that are real near and dear to my heart and things like that. And I feel good about it, and I'm almost air quoting that, because last night I got humbled, and this is what I mean about this, from having a true charitable heart. So, yes, I give 10% of my earnings away, and I feel very good about it. But last night, sitting on the couch with my partner, and she and I were eating dinner, and we were talking about, the situation that's out there right now. And we live in a very rural community in central Vermont. And there's no such thing as Uber Eats or DoorDash. There's none of that here in Vermont. It just doesn't exist. And so I was like, wow, now's the time. If I became a DoorDash person, if I was a young college kid, now's the time to do that, because, at least you could be making some serious money and all that. And she turned to me and said, hey, you realize I'm on a Facebook page with the local community, and there's 400 volunteers just to deliver food to whoever needs it.
Wow.
be very careful about, trying to take advantage of something all the time when people have a true open heart and are charitable. And I'll tell you, Ray, I got humbled right away, right? Like, cause I got caught into the fact of, being charitable is something you need to be aware of all the time and look for those opportunities whenever you can. If you have a true caring heart, it should be natural and it should be something that you work towards and all those kind of things. And just a simple example like that, I was like, oh yeah, college student could be making out well here. It humbled me, boom. Because she was like, yeah, there's 400 people that are just raising their hand and saying, we'll do it for free.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I actually made a post yesterday, and I put, in times of crisis, I see opportunity. And someone reached out to me, and it was almost the same thing. But luckily, I keep them very vague, but I see the opportunity to help, not only to make money. If they're elderly people that, what's going on with everything. I don't know when this is going out, but you can always help someone. I mean, and I'm not Robin Hood. Some people go, Ray, you act like Robin Hood. No, I take care of my family. I make sure they have what they need, not what they want, what they need. I used to have the fancy cars, the Range Rovers. I drive a little pickup truck right now that's paid off for because it was a want. I only need transportation. My wife has the nice car because she takes my kids around. So, and that's what I would tell a lot of people with their mindset is it's as every 3 months, taste buds change, you mature, your mind matures, you grow. That's why I make people every 3 months reevaluate themselves. I call it a self-evaluation test. Look in the mirror when you do this too. I left that out. I look in the mirror every 3 months and I grade myself. There's some months where I can't even look at myself in some of those subcategories because I've just been a real POS,
Because there's no greater critic.
There
right?
is none, and you can't BS it. When you're doing these self-evaluation tests, you need critical. I think the most successful people that I know are the most critical people in themselves. When I screened for a certain SEAL team once, and they said, what is your greatest strength and your greatest weakness? And I said, myself. And the Master Chief looked at me and goes, what the hell does that mean, Petty Officer Care? And I'm like, I am my best and my worst critic. I'm never going to be satisfied with doing enough. And I always feel like, I'm always going to feel like I'm never enough. And he was like, damn, but I think that's the mindset of a true warrior. I'm never going to be happy. I'm constantly going to be trying to grow and evolve. I mean, if the universe is growing and evolving every second of every minute of every day of every hour of every week of every month of every year, then we should be too.
Amen. Yeah, we are meant to do that. That is for sure. And so why don't we transition a little bit into fitness then? Because I think this is a great thing when we talk about we're meant to learn and to continue to grow. So, back in the day, right, if you told somebody, hey, worry about your fitness. Okay, that, what is that? Push-ups, sit-ups, and go for a run. That's not what you probably mean by fitness in today's terms.
No, I don't. I mean, well, that's
There's
part
components to that, but I mean, what do you mean in totality for fitness?
So for fitness, it's meal plan, it's mindset, it's taking care of yourself, going to a doctor. I've worked with some of the best doctors, some neurosurgeons, some fitness experts. Giving seminars. We talked about it: lead, listen, and learn. The only way that you're going to, and the reason, let me backtrack. The reason why it's so important to stay healthy is because it slows down that most critical component that we have on earth, and that's time. The healthier you are. Now, there are certain examples of when that doesn't take place, but statistically, if you're healthier, you're going to live longer. And if you're going to live longer, it means you can do more. And if you can do more, you're going to be with your family more. So again, it goes back to that chain reaction. But the neuroscience of staying healthy doesn't mean just going to the gym and lifting weights. It is a lifestyle. It's getting up, eating right, proportioning your food, portioning your meals. I actually use a meal plan that delivers to home because guess what? In today's world, I'd rather just have healthy meals sent to me. It costs money, but guess what? It gives me more time to spend with my family, more time to do things. Also, with health, it's not only being healthy, going to the doctor. I go to the doctor 3 times a year, not twice a year. If anything feels off, I'm 100% disabled vet. I'll go to the VA. I have private insurance. I'll go there. Yeah, I have to pay out the butt for that. Don't get me into that. I pay for that. But I get my blood work done. My thought process is, and this is what Americans and everybody on the planet should know, is if you take care of yourself, if you listen to doctors, if you go to doctors, and everybody goes, oh, doctors are this, doctors are that. If you get your blood work done, literally just get blood work done, and they run, test panels on you, you can see where you are in life and if the storm's coming. A lot of times, cancer, cut out the sugar. Sugar, they talk about soda. They talk about cigarettes. They talk about drugs. Sugar is the most addicting thing on the planet,
Yes.
bar none. My wife is a health nut. We try to cut 99% of that stuff out. It's hard, but it's not impossible. There's still going to be times that you have it, but fitness is literally going to be the key to your universe. If you want to live longer, if you want to do more, the time is now. And this is what I tell people. It's never too early or too late. My daughter is 11 years old. State champions were canceled this year, but she was going on 4-time all-around state champion gymnastics, for the state of Virginia.
Oh, wow.
Right now, gymnastics is closed. Schools are closed. Everything's closed. Well, guess what? She still gets up. She does her homework. She works out. Mom and me work out. Nothing changes. Yes, things have shifted. We call it in the SEAL teams, and I'm sure you know this, max flex, which just means you just have to shift your focus. It doesn't mean stop. It's a lateral transfer of success and motion so you can continue to go up. Sometimes the ladder is only going to go so high, and then you can't go any higher. So guess what? We have to take a couple steps. We're not going back to the left or right, and then we're going to climb. That's all we're doing. Hell, when I get done with you, that didn't sound right. When we're done speaking, sorry.
Thanks, Ray.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to go work out today. Nothing changes. All it takes is mission planning, something that we both know about. I run my house like a platoon. Except my wife is the CO, I'm the XO.
Okay. There we go. That's the right answer. Yep.
But that's how you have to run things. And it all stems back to what I learned in the military. There's certain things that my wife will say, hey, are a little too much and a little harsh. But, we do morning PT together. We did that in the SEAL teams. I know you did that. We focus on honor, courage, commitment, loyalty, I'm a man of my word. I make a promise and I keep it. I just instow the same core values that I learned in the military. And let me make this real clear, not in the SEAL teams, in the military. People always ask me, what's the best? Is the SEALs the best? Listen, I don't care if you were CAG, Delta Force, Navy SEAL, Dev Group, or you were a cook. My point is if you put on a uniform, and that's not just military, first responders, any person that does anything that puts on some sort of a uniform and goes to work for the greater good, they're heroes in my eyes. And I don't measure. I mean, hell, I just got, right before I talked to you, Rob O'Neill is one of my best friends. I mean, he killed Osama bin Laden,
right.
And he says the same thing. He goes, I couldn't have done what I did. We just had this conversation. I was getting my hair cut yesterday, and he called me this morning because I told him I was going on this podcast. And he said, it doesn't matter who you are. Every single person has a part, and nothing can be accomplished unless everybody, just like that engine, is running at 100%.
Absolutely. Kind of talking about the servants of the world. I love the fact when you refer to the military or first responders, it's the 1%. It's the 1% of the population that takes care of the other 99%. And they do that with a servant heart. This is something that they just feel they need to serve themselves and their country and their nation, their states, all of those kind of things. And everybody should absolutely be proud of no matter what job they do. There's no doubt about that.
It's the tip of the spear mindset. I agree. Yeah. The
absolutely.
1%. Yeah. I love it.
And the other thing I used to tell people, Ray, is, don't confuse how close you are to the fight with how important you are in life. I think that's a critical thing too, is that, you don't have to be right in the fight to be the most important thing. Everything, as you just said, is interconnected some way. And someone that's way back, you say, is the cook just as important as the SEAL? Yeah, they are, because everything's interconnected. And I think everybody in life should start thinking of that in that framework today too, that, there is this huge interconnected web that we are globally now. This pandemic that's out there, I think, is probably the greatest thing to reinforce the fact that we are a very small Earth now. We are interconnected, and there's just no getting back from that. And it's a great focus point.
I agree. And I talk about, Jason Rebbin's one of my best friends. He talks about life has, life ambushes, getting off the X. That's his thing. Mine is you're going to get mortared. I've been mortared before. I've been blown up. And as humans, normally we have 4 or 5 of those mortar moments, death in the family, something like this. Well, this is what's going on right now. Not just the nation, but the planet is being mortared.
Yep.
And this is what I know from someone who's been personally mortared. You're going to get hurt. You're going to have casualties. We are having casualties. But if you stay calm, if you go back to that muscle memory, hopefully, you've been trained properly. And that doesn't matter who you are. You can overcome and conquer what's going on. And as a planet, as a human race, we will beat this damn thing. But like I said, it all falls back to of the 3 L's: lead lead or be led. So right now we need to be led. We need to be listening to the CDC. Listen to what the hell they say. If it's social distancing, then do it and learn. I'm constantly on, and I'm using credible sites to make sure CDC. I use the CDC. How I can better myself. I'm not going out and hoarding food. I'm not being stupid. Recently, I had a lady. I had 2 rolls of toilet paper. She had 1, and if the world ends, seriously, I could care less if I have toilet paper or not. But my wife asked me to get some, and I gave her a roll. And the lady looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, "We have toilet paper. You can." And there's always contingencies. But what I noticed? There was a whole aisle of baby wipes, and from the military, I'm like, "Well, shit, I'm grabbing baby wipes." I'm like, "Yes, there's so many other ways to do this."
That's what I say. Yes,
but people are so one-dimensional with their thinking. It's the world. The world's going to end. I need toilet paper, sanitizer, and water. No, you don't. Right. No, you don't. There's so many other options that you can use. So what I need to tell people is to stay calm, stay vigilant, and just focus on what's important. And that's your family, your fitness, your finance, and your faith.
Yeah, I love that, Ray. So Ray, the 3 L's that you've been referring to when you're talking about lead or be led, listen, and learning, which one do you find when you're out and about talking to folks about these? Which one is the hardest for someone to really do? There's got to be a weak link in one of those 3 L's. Which one do you find people struggle the most on?
It's a toss up between leading and listening, because some people they don't listen, they just hear you.
That's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference. But leading, now this is what I'll tell you. Let me break down leading. Okay, I broke this down, and I hope I can get this right. So a leader, think of a leader, okay? A true leader wears a wristwatch, okay? You with me?
Yep.
Got it? So a leader knows when to tell the time, okay? And he also knows when to check the time. Now, what does that mean? So people don't understand what that means, but this is what it means. Sometimes the greatest leaders, their biggest issue is they get arrogant and cocky. Sometimes they need to check themselves. And then once they do that, but a leader, that's what I talk about. Sometimes you need to know when to give the time, and sometimes you know when to check the time. Because I've seen some leaders that have literally, it's my way or the highway. And I tell you what, we talked about my weekly meetings. Some of the greatest ideas I've gotten are from newer employees who have just a fresh perspective on things. And some of the, pardon my language, shittiest leaders I've ever met in my life in the SEAL teams and everywhere are people that don't take any single person's constructive criticism
Sure.
in any fashion. You know, like I'll give you an example. Jason Redman and I are very good friends. He was a lieutenant and I wasn't. We do business together with a podcast. We've had issues where I think he has overlooked some of the things that I've seen. So what do? Hey, you know, and I still, when we get serious, I still go back. I don't have to call Jason sir, but he's one of my best friends. Hey, sir, you got a second? That kind of snaps him up. Yeah. You know, and I do it right. Hey, sir, just so you know, you're only looking at this. It's crazy because you're like one of the best, you know, one dimensional. And as a great leader, we've had this happen once or twice with the podcast. He's went, well, shit, you're right. Versus a poor leader would go, I don't want to hear that stuff. So my point is the hardest things that I see is some people, they hear, they don't listen, because when you listen, you absorb. So I call the analogy in my 7 points of performance to master you is become the sponge, right? What does a sponge do? It absorbs knowledge. But what's going to happen? A sponge can only hold so much knowledge. Do you agree?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, guess what? When that's full, I wring it out on my inner circle so everybody knows it. And then I just put that sponge back down on the table and let it absorb more. So that's what I do. And that's what leaders need to do. And that's what us as humans need to do. We need to know when to lead and when to be led. So it's a toss up. If you had to ask me which one was the worst, I see more from my standpoint in the income where I'm at. You know, I'm not a 7-figure guy right now. The biggest troubles that I see are the listening. Now, for the individuals that are the next step up, the 7-figure people, and they say a lot of times, I have some 7-figure coaches that I have. I'm a coaching client for them, and they are just some of the most arrogant, one-dimensional blockheads I've ever met in my life. And I'm like, I've told them, I don't know, how did you become so successful only thinking that, you know, streets are one way? And I'm like, streets are two ways. And they're like,
that's exactly right.
But that's my thought on that.
So then if it is that, and you've got learning as your third one, and you kind of referred to this early on when you first talked to us about the 3 L's, that, you know, learning's about growing, right? Do you believe people are fearful of that? Do you find that people that are in senior leadership positions, do they feel like, hey, I've made it, there's no more need to learn, you know, I've peaked, you know, I'm happy to be stagnant where I'm at? What's the fatal flaw to that kind of thinking?
Well, I do see that a lot with some of my coaching clients. And the fatal flaw with that, as we talked about earlier, is, remember we talked about the universe is constantly expanding and growing. And if you're not, like I said, it just, everything that I do, I don't know if you ever notice it all goes back to, like, it's a big circle. So if you're not thinking like that, that success train is still trying to move. If you're holding that success train back, and that's what a lot of CEOs, and I mean big companies, I've dealt with some big companies with my speaking, and you know, the biggest part of, and here's what you need to know. Here you go. Let's just give you some statistics, okay? 86% of all companies that fail, it's due to one of the 4 pillars of success. You ready? Here's the 4 pillars of success. You tell me which one it is: teamwork, problem solving, leadership, or communication. Which one do you think is? No, actually, that's what I thought it was. No, it's communication. There was
that's the weakest point. You bet. Yeah, their weakest point.
Their weakest point. So leadership is the strongest, all right? So
should be.
It should be. So what I do with one of the businesses I run is I go into a company. I just did this with Chevrolet. My friend is like one of the head of Chevrolet. I went in there and I said, pick 20 of your most talented employees. These were all VPs. I'm talking, we're in Detroit. All right. And this is what I told him. I said, I'm going to do a communication drill with you. Are you ready? And this is one of the things I do. He goes, okay, I'm ready. I said, sir, I'm going to give you 5 words. 5 words, 4 single syllable, 1 double syllable, and I'm going to have you whisper the word to each person 1 time, 1 shot, 1 kill, all the way down. Do you understand? Sure. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you the piece of paper, and that's going to be your word. I mean, when I'm talking, I mean, this is the head of North American Chevy. He goes, okay, I got it. And I said, here's what everybody needs to understand. Everybody's going to have a piece of paper. You're going to link arms, and then after you do that, you hear it 1 time. You're going to pass it on to the next person's ear. Then you're going to turn around and you're going to write that word down. Stay with me.
Okay.
So but before they do that, then what I do is I create a sense of urgency. So I bring the CEO, or his name was Mr. Pizar. We'll just leave it at that. I bring him out. I said, okay, sir, now here's the deal. What would a detrimental day be to your company? He gave some astronomical $10 million. Okay. Which it was even more than that. Okay. If you get any of these words wrong, you've cost this company that much money. You're going to be standing in front of Mr. Pizar and you're going to be fired. So then people are like, oh my God.
Yeah,
so what happens is
they're at attention now.
Now, but this is what I tell people. If you heard it wrong and you repeated it correct, that's not your fault. But if you heard it wrong and if you received it wrong and you transmitted it wrong, you're going to take even more of a step. Okay. So what happens is when they do this, I have them go down, right? Boom, boom, boom. They go down. At the end, I'll say, okay, Mr. Pizar, you have your motto, right? Your what the words. Yes. Okay. I want them to say it. Now, here's what I do that I didn't tell you. I'll tell Mr. Pizar, you know what? I'm feeling generous, sir. 5 words is too much. I don't think Chevy can do it. Take one of your words off. So he'll take the double syllable word off. The four words, 4 single syllable words. I have never had it go past 3 people. And and what happens is usually about 60% to 80% of the people get it wrong, which just goes back and shows because it's a poor communication skill. Now, once I do that, he stands there with his mouth open with flies going in it and goes, now what? I said, well, now the reason why you paid me so much money is I'm going to teach you how to fix it. So what we do is we go through and we teach people teamwork, problem solving, leadership, and communication, myself and another gentleman. So we go through here and we make these companies run, you ready for this? Like a platoon in the SEAL teams, like I do, you ready for this? At my house, so they can become more successful. So this all goes back to, Ray, do you think the lessons that you learned in the military help you be successful? Not only do they help me be successful, but I'm helping Fortune 500 companies become successful using these basic skill sets. That's it. That's what I do.
I love it. How simple is that, right? Life's simple when you break it down and when it's just it's circular to how it is, right? You're applying it not only in your daily life but in the business world too.
Now, I will tell you, I learned real quick that you don't put the CEO in the chain. You have him start off at the beginning. But we also have drills. We have about 6 drills that we do to cover all them where the CEO, the first thing I do when I go to one of my workshops is I would say, who's the CEO here? Someone always raises their hand. You're fired. They don't like to hear that. I pick the most junior person because as a CEO, think about it. If you have 100 employees, I have 6 employees and I barely know my junior employee. But imagine if I can come to you and show you what you're not seeing. Because guess what? As a CEO, you could be the best CEO in the world. You could, if you have 100 employees, 20 employees, it's hard to make sure that you're, so my thing is I just come in and all I do is I literally am the shock and awe factor. Case in point, every company I know has core values. Do you agree?
They should. Yes.
They should. If you have more than 3 core values, no one's going to know them. I've had some of the most impressive companies on the planet. I've went up to them and said, 3 core values. Okay, write them down. Put your name beside it. Okay, let's collect them up. Sir, what are your core values? The CEO knows them by heart. And I read through them. I don't even say who. I say, sir, of your 25 employees, 2 people know them verbatim. And then I go back even farther with what you talked about with finance, right? Let's say you own a company. My company has different revenue streams. So for people that don't know what that means, it's different ways to make money, right? Right? Online coaching. I can do apparel. I do, my workshops. So I worked with, I used Fit Body Bootcamp. That's who I worked for, Bedros Keuilian. We did a seminar with his HQ. We picked the most junior guy, and I went with the VP. His name's Bryce Henson. And I said, sir, how many different revenue streams do you have? And he told me, what they were. I had the most junior guy who had been at the company for 4 months, and it's no fault of his own, none at all. How many different ways do you make money? He said 2. Okay, let me get this straight, sir. So You've had a guy work at your company for 4 months. He didn't know all the core values and he didn't know all your revenue streams. How can he be effective to you? So what do these companies do? And it's and I'm only picking out on one company, and believe me, it's my company.
Sure.
But my point is everybody is guilty of it. Everybody. There's no company that has more than 10 employees, mine including, where I say, hey, so what should you do as a CEO, as a good leader? Lead and be led. Hey, listen, guys, here I just said, listen, these are our core values. Learn them. After you learn them, teach them, lead others. So because I'm going to lead you, it all falls back. That's what I do. It's repetitive, right? Building great muscle memory to be successful. That's all success is muscle memory. Sticking to the basics. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
That's right. It is, you kind of said something a little bit earlier. I'm sure that you also are a big believer in the power of threes. A lot of corporations, they'll create, 28 points of view, or here's our 15 core values and things like that. And the simpler it is, it doesn't mean that it's a simplistic word or a simplistic meaning, but the simpler it is, the better it is to communicate, and everybody can have that vision and see that story in their own mind.
Amen.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Ray, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour of this podcast. I will tell you what, this has been a fantastic conversation. I think everybody that's listening to this is scribbling notes everywhere about this, because, the F-bomb analogies are just fantastic. And I think the biggest aha moment for me when you talked about the F-bombs was not only what your core beliefs are in those, but when you can walk up to somebody else, when you can walk up to a peer or a subordinate or someone that's above you and say, hey, you're a little off today. Is there an issue with your family, your fitness, your finance, your faith? That's so easy to remember at the end of the day, and it means so much. And then the 3 L's of leadership is just is a great reminder on why we're listening to this podcast, because leaders like you remind us of very simple ways to be very effective out there in the business world. So thanks again for spending this time with us, because we certainly have conquered this conversation with you on some of the spirit of leadership today.
Sir, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time, and I cannot wait. I think great things are coming with your podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for joining our leadership movement this week. Talking to Ray about the 4 F-bombs and the 3 L's to leadership was a great reminder of how iron truly sharpens iron when performing people-centric leader techniques. Don't forget, our show notes are posted on the website with key leader takeaways and suggested action plans. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and tell a friend so we can continue to build our tribe. Join our Facebook group to get even more behind-the-scenes action and exclusive content for our leaders. Until next time, remember that iron sharpens iron. Make yourself and others around you better every single day.